Welcome back to Learning Guitar with Demoz School of Music. Your teacher is Tony Doss, celebrated guitarist and professional musician with 2 decades of experience. The previous video laid the foundation for lead guitar playing, with the A minor pentatonic and blues scales. Watch it now in case you haven't.
Hi, this is Tony Doss from Demoz School of Music, and I'd like to welcome you back to our beginner's course for how to play the guitar. Today we're going to talk a little bit about a certain type of chord that we've already come across in some of the earlier lessons. We're going to just describe what it is and what we're doing, and a couple of different ways to play this particular chord. And this chord is called the bar chord. It's called the bar chord because we're using mostly our index finger to make a bar across all the strings. Not necessarily always all the strings. Sometimes it's just a smaller bar, but a lot of the time it's across all the strings. And once we bar all the strings with our index finger, then we use our other fingers, not just one of them, we use our other fingers to play all these different kinds of chord shapes in front of that bar. So what exactly is it that we're doing with this bar chord? Why do we do that? There's fairly a simple logic behind it. One is that, say for example, we're playing a regular C chord that we all know. This is a C major, yes? Now say for example, just as an example, say we are playing a specific song that requires us to play a C chord. Or say it requires us to play 3 chords from the key of C. If you remember, we explored all the chords of the key of C. So let's just pick 3 chords. We'll pick C and F and G. C major, F major, G major. Right? So say this is a song that I regularly sing and I'm comfortable singing it, and everything's fine that way. But say I am going to play a show, or say I'm working with another vocalist, another singer, who finds this particular starting note or this key of C, say they find it too low. So now what I want to do is I want to be able to adjust what I'm doing to suit this singer. So say C is too low, but maybe D is too high. So then what I might need to do is I might need to find the note in between C and D. And if you remember when we spoke about the notes that we use in Western music, in between C and D is the note that we call C sharp or D flat. So now I will have to take this chord and I'll have to move it up 1 fret. And that's simple, right? We're moving all the notes that we're playing, we're moving them up by 1 fret. So instead of a C now, it should be a C sharp, logically, right? So let's see what that sounds like. So that does not sound like a chord that we can use, right? Now why did that happen? Again, this is fairly simple. If you notice, the C chord has 2 open strings. So when we move the chord up by 1 fret, those open strings that were part of the last chord are not moving with the rest of the chord. So therefore we have the 2 open strings from the C, but yet all the fretted notes of the C sharp, and they sound really bad together. That's not a sound that we want to use most of the time. So what we need to do is we need to also consider moving the open strings up by 1 fret. So what we can do is play our C with these 3 fingers, the middle, the ring and the pinky. Move it up 1 fret, and we can use our index finger to bar across the 1st fret here, and now we have a perfect chord, right? And we can move this version of the chord, we can move it anywhere, because now this bar is acting like the nut that we discussed. Remember the parts of the guitar, this is called the nut. So now this bar is acting like the new nut. We move the nut up by 1 fret, and then we move it up by another fret, and so on until we get C again. So this is so using our bar is a very easy way of taking all of the chord shapes that we know and being able to move them around the fretboard so that we get a similar sound, but we can accommodate for different people's voice ranges, or for whatever reason we might want the song to be higher or lower. So this is a basic reason why we kind of rely on bar chords. There's other reasons too. I mean, we can come up with some really interesting chord voicings by using our bar, whether it's across all 6 strings. It's called a grand bar, and we have also a mini bar, not like the mini bar in hotels, but we have a smaller bar that we can use across fewer number of strings. So this particular idea can be applied to all of the chord shapes that we already know. As we just saw with C, we just take a C major chord and we place the bar behind the C major chord. Now we have a C sharp major, D major, D sharp major, E major, F major, F sharp major, G major, G sharp major, A major, A sharp, B, C. As simple as that. Let's take another very popular shape to use, and we've come across this also. We've played the G like this many times, right? And what this does is it takes what would be the open E major position here, which is the frets I'm playing are 0. I'm playing the open low E string. Then I've got my middle finger on the 2nd fret of the A string. I've got my ring finger on the 2nd fret of the D string. I've got my index finger on the 1st fret of the G string. And then I'm playing 2 open strings, B and E. So this is the open chord shape that this G shape comes from. So we take this open chord shape and we move it up 1 fret, and here we place our bar. Again, the bar is replacing the nut. It's like a movable nut. F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A, etc. So on and so on. So these are 2 of our popular bar shapes, the C based shape and the E based shape. Another one is a shape based on the A chord. So this is our A. Sometimes we can play the A just by taking our index finger and flattening it, making it a bar of its own. So I'm flattening my index finger across the 2nd fret of the D string, the G string, and the B string. But I've got my open E string here and my open A string below. Right? So this shape, I can take this A shape, I can substitute for the index finger, I can substitute my ring finger, and then if I move that up 1 fret and if I bar here, I get a B flat, get a B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, etc. if I move up 1 fret at a time. So, and this can be done with any chord shape that you're familiar with. But I would say the most common ones that we see are the one that's based on the E shape, the one that's based on the A shape, the one that's based on the A minor shape. Remember our A minor? And then remember our B minor chord after that? So that was just taking the A minor, moving it up 2 frets, and then placing a bar behind it. Exactly the same idea. And then we have variations on these shapes. Instead of the E, we have an E7. What's an E7? We haven't done that yet, but we'll get to that soon. And instead of the A, we have an A7, also another 7th chord. And again, a perfectly movable shape thanks to our index finger doing the bar behind the chord. A7, C7, E7, G7, G sharp 7, A7, etc., etc., etc. So this is one of the main functions of the bar in the bar chord, is to help us move these chords around. But as we learned earlier also briefly, it's also really helpful when we want to play more percussive and more staccato or short notes and styles that involve short notes. If we don't want things to ring out all the time, what the bar helps us to do is to mute everything by using the left hand. So I can just release the pressure from holding down the strings and I can get these very short notes instead of having to do. And so we can add in a lot of a percussive feel to whatever it is we're playing just by muting all of these strings. Right? And that's also a really important feature of the bar chord. So that's all for today's lesson. I hope you enjoyed learning about bar chords, and I hope you start practicing these really now, because they're a little harder to play than some of our conventional chords, because it requires us to hold down across all 6 strings with our index finger, and that requires some strength. So I'd say practice this slowly and practice it like an aerobic exercise. You know, many repetitions. So don't necessarily hold it down the whole time and play. You can kind of squeeze and release, flex and release, flex and release, flex and release, and it's kind of like, you know, doing a workout with weights. So do practice these. And practice them again with your metronome till you get better at them. And I hope you enjoyed this lesson. If you did, please like and share and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next lesson.